Darnell, take it away.
Yes, sir. Let's move to a guy who's always making waves on Twitter, Colin Kaepernick. Cap's been back in the news this week after a ton of quarterback injuries appeared to reopen the door for possible comeback. Reportedly, Kaepernick's agent is calling teams who are in need of a QB, and TMZ Sports caught up with Martin Luther King III, who weighed in on Cap's situation. Check this out.
Now, what would change it overnight is if the public decided to say, okay, we're not going to watch. But unfortunately, that's not going to. It's a complicated situation.
Yeah.
Because what about the guys who are playing?
Sure.
I mean, that's their jobs. That's how they make their livelihood. They don't need to have to stop playing.
Guy, why won't this Cap story go away?
I think part of it has to do with the fact that it's the easiest way to garner social media traction by saying, hey, there's a job, Cap should get it. And so I think sports media is addicted to that. I think a lot of celebrities, I saw Master P says the Saints should sign Kaepernick. And I'm like, well, damn, Teddy Bridgewater, not black enough, huh? Let's don't support him. Let's support Cap, the suburbanite from Wisconsin. But I don't, it won't go away because social media will not allow it.
That's real. And to add to that, it's interesting. There's so many layers to it. Why won't this go away? One, the guy has become polarizing.
Yes.
So when you're polarizing, you either love him or you love to hate it. But whatever it is going to be of interest. So that's one. Two, I think he speaks for a lot of different camps out there. If you think about it, the cause has caused people to really make him sympathetic in the fact that this is a guy who stood up for injustice, who sat for injustice, who kneeled for injustice, and now they see an injustice being done to him in terms of talent alone. But if anyone knows professional football and professional sports, it's not just an exclusive talent conversation. He speaks for the camps that are black and disenfranchised. He speaks for people of color who are voiceless and powerless. He speaks for mixed race people who have identity balances between being marginalized and privileged. He speaks for white guilt. He speaks for the suburban kids who live vicariously, glorifying criminality and violence from their safe places in the suburbs. And everybody got their hand in this pot, stirring it. And all of those populations add up to a guy who now, if you look at where he is, it's impossible to figure out what's going to be next because, like I said before, the talent is not the only criteria that he's being based on.
No, it's not. But, I mean, let's be real, though. Like, I mean, we've seen the guys that have been signing. Like, Paxton Lynch can't play in the league. He gets signed. We've seen a number of guys that have been retreaded and trotted out there that can't play. The one thing that we can say, regardless of whether you like Cap or not, Cap has been an accomplished player in this league. Cap played at a level where he got his team to the Super Bowl. Cap was a play away from winning the Super Bowl. At no point in this league have we ever seen a quarterback who has been on the cusp of being a Super Bowl winner, never get another opportunity to be a quarterback. And a couple weeks ago, before the season, Josh McCown was celebrated for coming out of retirement in ESPN and being signed. Cap is a more accomplished player than Josh McCown.
Yeah.
So, to me, I think the thing that is the issue is
All those
not that he hasn't signed, he hasn't had a workout. It's just uncommon that a player who has accomplished what he's accomplished has never even been brought into a facility to work out.
Listen, I can't wear size 36 jeans. That's on me. So some of the reason why
stretchy material.
that's on me. And so some of it's on Cap.
Yeah.
The
Oh, for
reason
sure.
He hasn't gotten a tryout is on Cap. What were his salary demands? Is Nessa, his woman, calling people racist and comparing them to Django Unchained? There's all these things that Cap has done that has prevented him from getting this opportunity. It's not just a group of people saying, oh, we're going to deny you a job. Act like you want it.
That's the nail. That's the nail. That's the hammer that hit the nail. Honest, and that's my take on it. It has nothing to do with talent. This has nothing to do with talent, and the reason why it won't go away is because the name has become synonymous with social inequality or social quality for minorities. It has become synonymous with this empowers me. This empowers us. And that's why people continue to talk about it. That's why it's being talked about. But it has nothing to do with Kaepernick's ability. It has nothing to do with that. And if people think that that's what it is, to make the comparison that this guy isn't as good as a Kaepernick or this guy isn't athletic enough to be a quarterback, it's 100% what you're saying. And when you think about bringing that type of attention to it's hard enough to win a game in the National Football League. It's hard enough to prepare for the week in the National Football League. We just had this big drawn-out conversation about Antonio Brown and his confusion that could possibly make or break the locker room in Foxborough. Well, when you're talking about this mass proportion connected to a guy like Kaepernick, if you're bringing him into your organization, you are going to have to deal with some very, very disruptive forces, whether for good or for bad. You are going to deal with some super big disruptive forces. And the one thing that I really genuinely dislike about all of this, because I am one that always stands for my people and will never back down for what my beliefs are and what I represent. But the one thing that really, really irritates me and irks me is that we never really take the other guys that are in those locker rooms into consideration, that are doing their thing and are representing what they're representing. It's all about this one person at this point. And it's okay to sacrifice everything and everybody else for the better good of what the result could be for this one guy in particular. And I feel like it takes the focus off of what we represent as a total whole to begin with.
Man, I love that. Love that right there. To take them into the process, because I think a lot of people don't understand how you become a professional athlete. And this is what's so disturbing about this story, having such conversation and legs to this extent. Grandma always said the way you go in is the way you come out. People got to understand, you are not chosen and drafted just on talent alone. If so, we wouldn't have interviews. We wouldn't go to the combines. We wouldn't have all these conversations. I could knock your head off. What are we talking about here? Why? It's a process, and it's a balancing act between your talent and the issues and what's the surrounding story of you. So let's talk about that. Because the lazy thinkers out there all say this. Hey, man, he's better than the worst player in the league. Why isn't he in the league? That's lazy of y'all, because I just told you about the process. It's a balancing act. Now let's look at the numbers. Since y'all want to talk and prop up talent, here's what evaluators also see in Kaepernick in his last 2 years. This is only of 30, not 32 teams, 30 qualifying quarterbacks. Dead last, 30th. 27th in completion percentage, passing yards attempt, and passer rating is 24th. So now we're talking about a guy who's subpar in the talent column. And we know he's going to bring a lot of antagonistic issues with him, such as you've antagonized the police force. Those are the people that protect us. Every single night when we go to bed in curfew, guess who's there? Policemen, off duty, active. So you antagonize them. You talk about the Cubans in the Castro shirt. You talk about the owners with the meme and calling them slave owners. Your girlfriend, whatever relationship we can't contain.
You're wrong, but I want you to hire me.
The pig socks, all that, the players. You've even beefed with the players. Eric Reid went on the field and fought Malcolm Jenkins over this same issue. So Cap in his camp comes with a lot of issues with a subpar performance level. No one is signing up for that.
I will say this, though. Like, I can understand about the subpar performance level, but Paxton Lynch also played at a subpar level.
Yeah.
There are a lot of guys that are playing that position that have played at a subpar level. I will say this, though, because so much time has left, at some point he's going to have to make a decision. If he really wants to play, he's going to have to go play somewhere. And whether that's in the National Football League, the Canadian Football League, the XFL, at some point, if he really wants to make his way back to the league, he's going to have to show people that he can play. And so that is on him. At some point, he's going to have to show people, all right, I'm willing to do anything and everything to go play.
You can have a Paxton Lynch on your roster and not have to talk about Paxton Lynch.
Well, and again, and look, man, there's 63 guys in the locker room counting practice squad. I would say the 63, I would say 58 of them don't want to talk about these issues, period. They're not qualified. That's not what they do. They just want to have fun. And it goes back to risk versus reward as it relates to Kaepernick. And so I've argued at the beginning of this, people to me are supporting Kaepernick it's their way of saying, hey, look, I'm not racist. And hey, look, I'm really black. Look, I support Cap. He's a heat shield for people to, I stand for all the right things. And so if that's the case, think of being a head coach or a general manager or owner. If you take on the Cap situation and decide he's not good enough, he can't help.
You connected the job to
You're now going to be labeled as racist.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a, so people live in so much fear of being labeled racist that it's not worth the risk.
That's a great
If it doesn't go well, I'm going to be crucified, and my brand name, my family, my kids, anybody could come at my wife under attack. That's what Cap has done with the Nessa being out of control, partnering up with a lot of these social justice warriors over Twitter who build their whole following just by calling everybody racist, sexist, homophobic. When you partner with that group, you become toxic and people become afraid of you because it's just not worth the risk.
Yeah, and there's no healthy assessment that could come from that point going forward. And Cap has made his own calculation. He has chosen martyrdom other than playing football because he was, like you said, would have played football already and built himself back up to that place, but it's too risky.
Where's that ticker?
We gotta go. Coming up,
ticker.
Lamar Jackson is outplaying Baker Mayfield so far this year.